The reason I launched YEO was my mentor, Joe Mancuso, said it's okay to be independent, but no reason to be alone. And being an entrepreneur is very lonely. And I saw that when I hosted Steve Jobs and he stood by himself in the corner at the event that I threw to honor him. And I'm like, there needs to be an organization for Steve, for the Steves of the world. And let's speed forward. The thing I've learned is I think every human being, because loneliness is really a major issue in the United States and elsewhere, especially men our age, is everyone needs to be in a small group. Everyone needs a forum.
Verne Harnish, it's been way too long, my friend. How are things?
It has, Nick, and things are going well, even though it's chaotic out there.
I got it, man. Well, look, most people might know you from founding what was YEO.
Yeah.
Now it's EO, the Entrepreneurs Organization, as well as scaling up. You've worked with entrepreneurs and businesses of all sizes for decades now. We've been friends for over a decade.
Yeah.
I would say this, and I would love your opinion, Verne.
Yeah.
Do you think did business as usual change, in your opinion, drastically? Like, is it almost like there were pre-COVID businesses and post-COVID businesses?
Yeah. No, you know what? I think it's interesting. 76% of people are back at the office. We thought Netflix was going to put movie studios out of business, and they're having, they're going gangbusters. Now, AMC's got their meme stock going as well, but, we're human beings, and there's some things that haven't changed for the couple 100,000 years that we've been on the planet. In fact, we're going back to some of the original paleo routines and eating and all that kind of stuff that, we've evolved around for these couple 100,000 years. So I think there's a set of fundamentals that have not changed that I codified in Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, like the daily huddle. I mean, they're using it at Airbnb, use it at Apple. These are the highest market cap companies understand the importance of a daily huddle. But what has changed is AI really is a whole new set of resources and employees that are allowing us, I think, right at the right time to say, evermore, I just want A players plus AI. That's the winning formula. And if you got a C player, all AI is going to do is speed up their mess. AI might be able to get a B player to A player, but man, you can get 50, 100% more done with the people you've got if you use AI appropriately here in 2024 and beyond.
Yeah, I would say for everybody, I've done a lot. You and I have been in probably many now, like think tanks and all the things about AI. And look, at the end of the day, it's still like AI is like getting a computer for the first time or getting an Alexa. Like, it's a platform. Like, what can it do? I don't know. Like, a lot. And it's going to be capable of more and more and more relevance in our life. But as of right now, the best advice I've been given is everyone should be using, at the very least, everyone should be using AI as an assistant to help you do certain tasks, to help you become more productive, more effective, all the things. Are there scary elements of it? Yes, there are. But there's scary elements about automobiles. If I put it in the hands of a 3-year-old and there's no brake, it's going to be a problem.
It can be bad.
Can we use every tool can be used for good and evil. And we've seen that since the beginning of time. So I'm an optimist, but I'm not the person who thinks that, AI is going to take over the world and murder me. If it does, I guess I won't care anyway, because I'll be gone.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But I think it's something we shouldn't be afraid of. And most importantly, I think adaptability has been proven to be one of the biggest elements of success, and it'll be even bigger moving forward. My advice to people, I'd love to hear yours, would be try something new with AI every day or every few days. Because if you just sit by on the sidelines and read articles about how other people are using it, you're never going to get anywhere, because you're just never going to jump in. You've got to jump in no matter how intimidated you are. You got to jump in and just try it. And in my experience, you'll be shocked about how useful it is. I've got plenty of stories of ways I never would have thought, as well as how we're using it in making documentaries
Yeah.
with things like language translation and creating images that we can't find anywhere else. I mean, just so many amazing ways to use it. I mean, I guess as we're talking about AI right now,
Yeah.
any few favorite tools that you're using regularly and how you're using them?
Yeah. Well, we really have got kind of three strong recommendations. First, there's a book. I know there's a lot of books, but there's three professors out of University of Toronto. They're really on the business side of how to apply. And they wrote a book called Power and Prediction. And those are really the two things that we as business people need AI to do, to give all of our people more power and to help us better predict. The second then is, and we're using a client of ours, they sell office furniture, Nick. It's not Meta or Google. I mean, these guys sell office furniture. They're out of Pittsburgh at COE Distributing. Now they do 9 figures on it, but what they did, and we're doing it ourselves, is they partnered with the University of Pittsburgh's data analytics department. And by the way, my daughter goes to Webster here in St. Louis, they've got a data analytics department. She was getting a minor in it. And you go to the professor, and for $10,000, J.D. Ewing has got that professor's students working on an AI initiative each semester. He started this, Nick, 5 years ago, before this was sexy. And let me just share one thing that might give people a real insight, which then is the third thing you do is, and we're doing it ourselves. There are some services that have popped up where for literally $2,000 a month, you have them work with one of your employees. I've got them working with Gene, my EA, out of the Philippines. And what you do is you say, all right, here's a standard operating procedure. Here's something that you guys spend a lot of time doing. They coach on what is the right AI platform to use in order to automate that, to make it go, get things done in minutes that take you literally months. So I'll just tell the one story. So JD's like, all right, Netflix uses AI to figure out what film they ought to do next, right? They're the largest movie studio in the world. He said, we have to try to predict what will be the hot new color, the hot new wood style, the hot new look for 2024. So we had the students a few years ago build an algorithm. Nick, they're nailing it. So last year, I haven't got the update this year, but it was American elm. That's what the AI engine said. It's going to be the hot wood. Here are the designs. And by the way, they didn't have to build them. AI made the images of it. AI wrote the scripts. AI did the video with the bot woman who then introduces the hottest new trend for 2023, American elm, showing all the photos. That cost them before hundreds of thousands of dollars that they can now, and it's much more accurate, that they can do for literally thousands of dollars. So these are, and we've got an initiative with Harvard's data analytics professor, Shua Gong, they're going to do a significant initiative for us. And I can't even pay Harvard. They're not allowed to take even my $10,000. And those students are more wicked smart than anyone I can hire inside my own organization. So that's what we're really strongly recommending.
I love it. All right, well, let's talk about organizations. You have a new book, 12 Habits of Valuable Employees.
Yes.
I think most businesses of the past, obviously it's becoming more and more and more of a thing as the marketplace is getting competitive. I think it shouldn't have taken this long, but employees, team members are demanding to be treated civilly, which is great. And I think, obviously you have known forever that building a great culture is the difference between an incredibly successful business or a failure, because every cancer will eat itself from the inside out without treatment. And a bad culture in a business is exactly that. Tell us why you wrote that book, how it might partner up with Rockefeller Habits, scaling up, all these things, why you wrote it. And then let's talk a little bit about some of the principles you share in that book.
Yeah. Well, the short of it is there's 6,000 books on average written every year how to be a better leader, which, by the way, I don't think has turned out very well if you look at the engagement scores. But there's really not anything that's been written about, but what does it mean to be a great employee, a great associate? You team that with Jim Clifton, the CEO of Gallup, in an interview Gary Hamel did with him last year. And look, Jim at Gallup, they've been surveying 100 million employees every year for 50 years. They're the ones that determine that people leave not because of the company, but because of their boss. And so he said it clearly last year. We finally figured out the only way to fix bosses is to get rid of them. Somebody just literally sent me an article called Unbossing. We saw all of Silicon Valley, including Scott Fuqua, who did the cover endorsement of Scaling Up, say, you know what? We don't need people working on work anymore. We just need people working. And so nobody needs managed. So what that means is we just need, like ant colonies and beehives, we need workers doing work. And that's why my latest article with Chief Executive Magazine, I just submitted it a week ago Friday, it's not published yet, is called A Player plus AI. That is the combination. Less people, paid more, but they need to be A players. You pair them with AI, and now you're going to crush anyone out there in the marketplace. And by the way, I think employees, if they don't commit to what we talk about in this book, they're going to get replaced with AI. And we're seeing that kind of bifurcation in the marketplace. So that's why we wrote the book.
Tell me this, A player. So I read a thing one time that Michael Jordan, he was brutal about the players on his team. And he just because he realized he could not build a championship team with anything other than all A players. And that's one of the best examples I've ever heard for a company too. You cannot build a championship team with anything other than all A players. Obviously, with anything in life, even if everyone's A players, there will be levels of A players, and the bottom one's going to give you more grief than the top one does until you get so far that now the top one, it's sort of a process. But can anyone be an A player, Verne, or is there just a chemical, a physiological makeup that makes you that?
Yeah, well, it's like everything. There's a nurture and there's a nature. And I think the confusion first starts with, because there's also, I thought you were going to bring up equal number of articles that say, but you can't scale a company if you can't figure out how to get B players or C players, because there's a lot more of them productive. You might say the 1 million people that Amazon has as employees, are they all A players? By the way, I'm on a board with their head of HR, Carlos, and he said, yes, they really focus on it. And I can give you some more details, but it starts with the definition. An A player is the best person you can afford. I want to say that again. So it doesn't mean I need all Harvard and Stanford grads, flipping burgers for me at In-N-Out. And I'm reading the In-N-Out story right now, burger story. It's, here's the job I need done. Let me find the best person I can afford for that job. That's an A player. Now, if you can structure to where you can pay more, and that's why we wrote the Scaling Up Compensation book, less people paid more than more people paid less, you can get a better person for that position. But we can all have A players. We have over 8 billion people to choose from. So we can find the 5, the 50, or the 5,000, or even the 1 million that we need. And so we wrote the book to say, here are the 4 things that we're teaching companies to use to select you. And if you can do better in these 4 areas, and by the way, 3 of those areas are tough for AI to do, this is going to give you an advantage to your career and your success path. So it was written for, us workers, and we all work for somebody.
Yes,
right?
We all do, whether it's clients, customers, whatever it is.
That's exactly right. We're all employed.
I totally get it. Yeah. So, well, the concept of this entire podcast is called questionable. As a director, all I do all day is ask questions, and so
Yeah,
the key to a better life and a better business is asking better questions. Because if you don't know the right question to ask, you're never going to get the best answer. And so, I love
yeah,
the fact that we've covered a few things here so far. Number one, it would be not should I be using AI? It's how can I use
yeah,
AI today?
yes,
I mean, that's one of the questions. Another one is, what's the best person I can afford for the job? I never heard that definition. That's an incredible definition because it really does take this. There could be lots of arguments for
yeah,
lofty pie in the sky goals for just essentially blue collar companies that do need just good workers.
yeah,
The other thing about that's interesting is people say, well, these jobs are going away, and like McDonald's is always the example
yeah,
people give, and I'm
yeah,
like, well, if I could walk in, I would pay 50% more if I could walk into a McDonald's and it was clean and friendly and they got my order right every time and it was a human being. I would pay more. I actually believe, and maybe that's why they call it Chick-fil-A. That is that
exactly.
business. But anyway, the
Yeah,
you know the I believe that AI is going to allow humans to be more human. So we're going to take away those repetitive processes that humans don't need to do. They used to do screwing
yeah,
on the toothpaste cap, humans don't need to do that anymore. And they also don't need to do repetitive tasks. So I actually believe that, for instance, at a high-end restaurant, Vern, a great waiter and
yeah,
a great maitre d', a great chef are going to be able to earn more money because they are going to be the best human version of that, because they're going to be able to provide even more of what our mutual friend Dan Sullivan called their unique ability. You're going to be able to just pay to get that because they're not going to have to do all these other things. And when you start thinking about it that way, it's incredibly freeing, isn't it?
it is. And that's why, hey, we'll come back to my book, but last year, finally, our good friends, Brad Smart and his team, wrote a book that updates top grading. I mean, that is the method you want to use for hiring. And it's called Foolproof Hiring. Foolproof Hiring. It's much thinner than that big old tome that they had written. And here is the point again that people miss. And I'll give you an example. When you get down to the final three candidates, and what I love about top grading is they structure what's called a job scorecard instead of a job description. And by the way, that job scorecard aligns with the four attributes of a valuable employee that form the structure of our book. But you get down to the final three candidates. Here's what the research shows. You didn't hire someone bad. And that's what gets everybody tripped up. They look at the team and they're like, hey, I got good people. Why do I need a better hiring process and a better set of filters? Because you left a better person on the table. So I'll tell you a story. We run these CEO boot camps. We have a CEO and a COO there out of California. They make these concrete kind of pop-up warehouses. So they build the concrete sides. They can go out, pop it up. Almost all of these data centers and all of that are being built. So they're growing rapidly. They need to hire a new project lead. So they get it down to three candidates. They do the standard interview and they choose one. And he's good. But they quickly landed another big deal. They needed to hire another very quickly. So they went back to the two candidates that they left on the table and they chose one of them. That second guy is running circles around the first one they hired. On time, quality, punch list, any way you want to measure what a project lead does for a project, the guy they left on the table is 3x the guy they hired. And all you have to do is take 1 point. All you have to do is say, we left somebody who's 10% better on the table. And you multiply that times the last 5 or 50 or 500 hires. And all of a sudden, 1.1 times 1.1 times 1.1. And all of a sudden, you've got twice the productivity, quality, speed, everything that matters just because you got a 10% better person. And that's why you've got to up your game in recruiting, interviewing, and then hiring. And then have them read our book. Keep them.
And we'll go through some of these habits as well and the
You got it.
principles. But tell me this too, Vern. You've been gathering and
Yeah.
creating communities of entrepreneurs before entrepreneur was a popular word, by the way. You've been doing that and bringing them together. There's something intriguing to me about how much better people get and how much more they learn
Yeah.
as a community that feels supported. I would just ask, like, what have you learned from all these decades of bringing entrepreneurs together and creating these communities? Because you've done it over and over again. Like, what are some of the biggest lessons you've learned, maybe that weren't even obvious until you did it?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, a side note, one of the first things I wanted to get done and did was President Ronald Reagan, who was president during the time I launched ACE and YEO. I wanted him to be the first president to use the word entrepreneur, and he did. And I got invited to the White House, and then the rest is kind of history. But yes, yes, we were there before entrepreneurship was popular. You know, the reason I launched YEO was my mentor, Joe Mancuso, said it's okay to be independent, but no reason to be alone. And being an entrepreneur is very lonely. And I saw that when I hosted Steve Jobs and he stood by himself in the corner at the event that I threw to honor him. And I'm like, there needs to be an organization for Steve, for the Steves of the world. And let's speed forward. The thing I've learned is I think every human being, because loneliness is really a major issue in the United States and elsewhere, especially men our age, is everyone needs to be in a small group. Everyone needs a forum. And at the heart of EO and YPO and Vistage and these CEO groups is this small group that follows a very precise process to be there to help us. You can't do this alone. And what I'd love to point out is at least if you passed away, you would have the pallbearers that you need to carry your casket. It would be your forum mates. They would be there for you as they have. So that's the big thing we've learned with entrepreneurs.
Incredible. Yeah, yeah. Don't do it alone. I mean, together we go far, right? That's a big deal.
Well, there's that African proverb, you can go fast alone, but you can go further together.
Love it. All right. So the 12 habits of valuable employees, it's sort of broken down into four essential areas: will, values, results, and skills. And each area includes three habits. Let's break some of these down. We don't have to belabor them, but tell us what is will? What does that mean?
Yeah. And that, by the way, is the four criteria we think are critical in hiring any employee. So first of all, we think most important is will. Do they have the will to learn? Do they have the will to persevere? Do they have the will to push through the pain? Do they have the will to get up after they've fallen down? That is business. That is the business and human situation. And by the way, it's really hard to train that. So you need to hire for it. And then our just three habits are there to help kind of reinforce and support folks, for instance, with the will to learn. So that's why it's first. The second then is, did you want to ask some questions on that first, or?
I was just going to say, so you mentioned a habit. Like, how do you define a habit? Because I know people think of all sorts of things. They think of habits, probably negatively mostly, but how do you define a habit?
Yeah, and we debated the term habit or behavior. If you go back to what is a culture is not its core values. The core values are the rules. A culture is the sum total of all of the behaviors, the things people do. And so a habit is that you've committed to doing that thing regularly. So for instance, one of those is that you're regularly learning. And with as rapidly as things are changing in every field and every position because of AI and technology, if you don't have the will to continue to learn, and it was one of the key reasons I hired Jean, my EA out of the Philippines, is in my foolproof top grading interview, she demonstrated that she was hungry to learn. And that includes being willing to learn AI.
Got that. Cool. All right. So let's go on to the next one then that you're about to cover.
Yeah. So the next one is values. And those are the rules of your game. And I equate it to sport. I don't care what country you play basketball in, the rules are the same, even though your culture is different. And even though the culture of the team could be different. And so these are your rules of your game. And if, first of all, and the habits around that are, first of all, do people know what the rules of the game are? It's crazy to think that there's a professional athlete who doesn't know every arcane rule of their sport, whether it's golf or football or soccer or whatever. You'd be amazed how many employees don't know the rules and they haven't been defined well inside the organization. And so, what are the habits or routines, rituals around reinforcing those rules? By the way, as a side note, I would say to some of the leaders listening in, if you're not passing out a yellow card, in soccer, or a red card, you're throwing a few people out, you don't really have rules. Nobody's going to take you serious. You've got some nice to haves, you've got some, aspirational ideas, but you don't really have rules of your game. And it's not a sport without rules and refs holding people to those rules. By the way, have we figured out what they're going to do with Scotty Scheffler and his mess that they had at the PGA Championship?
That is a wild one. By the way, it also, this reminds me of the when Tim Ferriss, when I first read 4 Hour Work Week, like he realized he could win some sort of, I don't know if it's Taekwondo, some sort of martial arts match. But one of the rules was if you go outside the ring, you lose. So he ended up winning like the world championship just by pushing everybody out of the ring.
Yeah.
He was just like, that was like a technicality I could win on, and he won a bunch. But I always say that the same thing with kids. Like there's so many kids that you see acting out. And in a lot of cases, it's because parents don't set boundaries, so the kids don't know the boundaries, so they feel really unsafe. If you go play a game, even now, especially probably the older you get, without any context for the game and without any rules, or you don't know the rules, or someone who's in charge keeps changing the rules, how self-conscious are you going to be? How miserable are you going to be? How unsafe are you going to feel? And it's all about, in order to have success, we have to know the game we're playing. In order to play any game, we have to have rules. And I think people forget that applies to like every aspect of life for people to feel safe and productive.
Yeah. Well, and that's why in Google's research, the effectiveness of a team came down to psychological safety. And nobody wants to play a game where somebody's not playing by the rules. It can be just a card game. Our family has gotten around the table over holidays and, somebody's not playing by the rules. And there's even debate. Wait a second, let's look it up. What is the real rule here?
What's the real rule?
What is the real rule? And we know that from a human condition, it matters. We need to take it more serious inside the organization. And we need every employee reinforcing and playing by those rules. And so that's really the second attribute, with, again, some very specific behaviors we detail.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. So getting every employee, team member to reinforce the rules. In a lot of ways, that sounds like, well, it could be two things. Number one, in order for me to be an A player, I need you to be an A player. So we're going to have an understanding that if I see you slipping and you see me slipping, you let me know. It also sounds a bit like a narc, and I guess for a B player, it would be like somebody who's like, I don't want to tattle on people, but in order for us to, if we set the expectation and the standard for operational excellence, then I guess we can't have anything different than that. But I bet just that whole wording probably makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable at first. Like, I'm going to have to enforce something that, I'm going to have to be I'm going to have to be a cop.
Well, but it's interesting. I just came off a Southeast Asia tour. I was just up in Canada, and I'm like, hey, if you're going to visit my country, the United States, where's the safest place for you to be if you don't want to die? And they say mean things like, well, it's not your schools. All right. That hurts. Maybe they say Texas because they think they got a lot of guns down there. Yeah, I get a lot of, but the truth is it's on a commercial aircraft, and, we had an average of 24 deaths a year for the first decade of this century. By the way, that's terrible. But 60 people die in the United States from lightning strikes. You're more likely to get hit me out playing golf and the horn blows and I don't come in soon enough. But how did they do last decade? 2010 to 2020. They improved it 100-fold, Nick. There were only 2 deaths in the entire decade. One of those was the first in Southwest Airlines history, when that fan blade came off and went through the window and sucked that woman out. And by the way, knock on wood, this century, there's been none so far in the United States. One of the first in Asia was the person who died on the turbulent flight, and that was of a heart attack, a 78-year-old person of a heart attack. Now, why is this? Because I am so glad that everybody in the cockpit, everybody in the maintenance department are there policing each other and making sure that, I don't care whether you had a bad night, had a fight with your spouse, tied one on too much, knock on wood, I flew in this morning and I am so thankful that every mechanic, every flight attendant, and every pilot went through that checklist. And as we say, professionals do it all, amateurs only do the fun parts. And to take it one step further, back to psychological safety, United Airlines had a disastrous crash years ago in Portland. And they realized it was because the pilot saw himself as king. And they couldn't, there was an indicator that the landing gear wasn't down, even though it was down. And so he's barking orders and nobody else could get a word in edgewise, and they ran out of gas and killed everybody on the airplane. And that's when United said, we got to change the dynamic in the cockpit. We got to make sure that everybody's heard, that everyone's is respected. And if somebody sees something bad happening, that they can speak up and they'll be listened to. And that's not narking on each other. And if it is, I want everyone to narc on everyone before I get on that airplane, right? Here's what's sad. I say, where's the worst place to be in the United States if you don't want to die? And that is taken to one of our hospitals.
Wow.
The third leading cause of death in the United States is medical error. 249,000 deaths a year. We're talking about pandemic level death every year just from medical error. And guess what? Docs don't want to narc on each other. Nurse doesn't want to narc on the doc and all of that. And you know what? As somebody said, the reason medical, and Atul Gawande, the great medical doctor, wrote Checklist Manifesto because he was upset by this. It's because the pilot's going down with you and the doctor's not. Could you imagine if we put the doc down, if they made a mistake? They would fix this stuff, Nick. So that.
And by the way, AI is going to help with a lot of that too. I firmly believe it's going to catch errors before we can.
I think. And by the way, it's going to narc on the doc. It's going to watch what's going on and say, Doc, you're not following. And that's what Atul Gawande found, by the way. If every doctor and nurse followed a 4-step checklist in entering a main line, when they did it to the worst hospital chain in the United States, Detroit, people dying from sepsis, infection rates went from worst in the country to best. They went to literally 0 deaths. 0, wow. Not 0 point, 0. But what was it? Ego. They got in the way. So let's go to the third. So will, first of all, you have to will to learn, to follow the rules. Number 2, you got to know the rules and you've got to hold each other and recognize each other for living those rules and holding them. And that does create safety, actually. I have something to defend myself with my boss. If they come in and it's like, now the value is the lightning rod, not the person. Third, then, is results. Can this person actually deliver on what it is that we need them to do? The Moneyball stat. Can they actually get on base? And that is only shown through their history. If they've never somehow or another delivered 10 million in revenue for anyone, why do they think you think they're going to start doing it for you. And so it's this maniacal focus on the outcome, you know, and making sure that we can actually deliver on time, on budget, what it is that we need to achieve. And then last is skill. And that's the one that's most fungible of the four. Yet, if you look at a job description, job descriptions are all about the skills we're looking for and not addressing the will, the values, and the results. So that's why I come back to the job scorecard in top grading, is it lays out all four, and then that's what you interview against.
Dig that. One of the things you talk about too
Yeah,
is personal and professional growth. And one thing that I realized, I think, look, school really, I did a lot of it. I went through law school and everything else, but school really wasn't for me. I mean, I liked recess, I liked lunchtime, I liked PE. That's pretty much about, and my friends, that's about it. And I had some cool teachers here and there. But so I come out of school with this preconceived notion that learning, so if you want to continuous learning and continual growth would mean I need to go sit down in a desk for another 8 hours a day while someone else controls me. Well, that's really not what it is, but I have this preconceived notion of it. And I started realizing recently that, I don't love to read. I need to get better, but I listen to a ton of audiobooks, ton of podcasts. And of course, in all my documentaries, I interview all the best in the world all the time. So I actually love learning. I just love learning in different ways. And I've seen statistics, I'm sure you've seen them too, that how few people after graduating from high school or college ever read a book again, which really would, I mean, if we take out audiobooks and all the other things, like really lack of personal and professional growth. And even just reading, I mean, one or two books a year, I mean, you'd be way ahead of, I mean, the amount of head start and advantage you can get by constantly just pouring more knowledge into
yeah,
you, and that you enjoy. By the way, like I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and the way I pick an audiobook is if I want to
yeah,
run further because I don't want to stop listening, this is a good one. If I don't want to go running then that's a bad one.
yeah,
And you can quit books regardless of what people say.
yeah,
You can quit books in the middle if you're not enjoying it. Like you could just move on. But it's amazing how when the more I do that, the more my optimism increases, the more I'm excited about life, the more I can problem solve because I have new tools to use.
yeah.
I can't imagine what a life without continued growth would be. Um, how do we find people and identify people in the workplace that are going to want to? How do we know if they're going to want to keep growing or not?
Yeah. Well, let me make a little side note. One of the things that we've done in the book is we recognize the power of TED Talks. It's amazing how in 18 minutes they can get across the key points. They would take you 18 hours to listen to or read the book. And so we've recognized that there's been a change in the way people want to learn. Even my weekly insights, Nick, when I put a video, it gets clicked on 3 times more than if I reference an article. And so I'm like, you know what? I can fight it, but that's why you're in the business you're in. You get
Yeah.
that people love video and they love hearing the story told that way than just having to read about it. And so I think what we've done well in the book, first of all, it's very thin. I mean, you can read it in one sitting. We like to kid between flushes. But what
Very
we've
nice.
done in each one of the 12 is we've said, here's a book you could read. Here's an article that's a lot shorter. And here's a video, usually a TED Talk, that if you'll at least do a dozen of these TED Talks, 18 minutes times 12, you're going to be ahead of many of the other people that you are working with and competing with. And if we can make it easier, that's why we have our Growth Institute that we point to, which are really a top video driven equivalent of an MBA. We call it an MBD. The second thing I want to emphasize, we just hosted Jenny Romedy, the former CEO of IBM, and she wrote a great book called Good Power. And she made a really important decision at IBM, which was, why are we only hiring people with degrees. If we really look at the job that needs to be done, particularly with AI, who are the smartest folks with AI? Kids, like that
Yeah.
are 15, 16. I mean, by the time you're 22, you're already behind the eight ball. And so they have a program called P-Tech that I think is really revolutionary, where they're identifying really sharp 16-year-olds who, more importantly, have the will to learn. They love technology. They are good at it. They can get results with it, whether they have the degree or not. And they then pair them up with a junior college while they're in their junior or senior year of high school. And if they finish all the badges that they can earn, they show the results that they're able to get, they hire them right out of high school for almost six figures. Now, she said many of them choose then to go on to college later, but they're not wasting, my view, this is me saying it, 4, 5, 6 years sitting at a desk in a classroom, listening to a professor who's already 10 years behind the bell curve on what it is they ought to be teaching. So I think a lot's changed around personal development, and I'm glad to see companies are not looking at degrees, which, by the way, in most job descriptions, you got to have a degree in this and
Right.
so many. No, those other stuff matter more.
I love that. And one of the things that I would say frustrates me, like in this day and
Yeah,
age, at college or in grade school, whatever, there's still a bunch of teachers who shouldn't be teaching the subjects they're teaching. And it drives me absolutely bonkers that I can get the best teachers in the world online on demand for free.
yeah,
Yet I'm forced for my children and college credits and stuff
yeah,
to pay for some of these professors who suck. It's like, this is unacceptable. And I know that's going to change soon because you already with Khan Academy and everything else, you can get access to the best. And now with AI, like you can have a conversation with Gatsby from The Great Gatsby. You can literally,
yeah,
it's fed in there. You can ask him questions
yeah,
using Conmigo, their AI. Like learning is going to become fun. I mean, it's revolutionary what's happening. It's become even more fun. I don't know
yeah,
if you saw it yet, but there was a Google AI demonstration just not a week or two old, I think,
yeah,
where the guy fed in his son's assignments and teachings and PowerPoints, like all the stuff.
yeah,
And this new feature in Google that creates a podcast out of it. And you can interact with the podcast. It has hosts of it. And you can ask it how to tell you more about physics from the point of view, if you like the sport of basketball, if you like music, like how would this work here? And you can engage with it. And like all of a sudden, you can learn what you need to learn, the fundamentals
yeah,
you need to learn in a way that's engaging for you. I mean, this is massive as we talk about AI and how it's going to change the world. And by the way, if we use that correctly, our future team members should come into the workforce
yeah,
so much more prepared because they might have actually learned the damn thing
yeah,
instead of memorizing it. Like memorization used to be the one thing you had to do
yeah,
because there's no other way to do it. Now memorization, and by the way, memorization was like at the height of it, and creativity was at the bottom. Like, no, we don't want you to creatively put on the toothpaste
yeah,
cap. We want you to memorize how to do blah blah. Blah. And now it's like creativity and problem solving is at the top, and memorization is quite frankly pretty useless in most cases because
yeah.
I got anything I need at any time that has more data than I could ever know. Like, what a fascinating flip.
Yeah. And I was excited. Literally this morning, I saw Bill Gates announced his top 5 books to read this summer. One of them is by the founder of Khan Academy. And, Bill was one of the early funders of Khan
Yeah.
Academy. And it really is driving home how they've got their AI tutors now that they've built or building. They're going to be part of Khan Academy that'll be there to help our students learn. And I remember my daughter, Jade, who I'm here to see, we homeschooled using online K-12 when we were traveling around the world. And she did an entire year of math in one night.
Wow.
She didn't want to. She had messed up on some scheduling and stuff like that. And I kind of stayed up with her all night. And she pulled it off. But it just showed how bloody inefficient our education system is, Nick.
My youngest daughter just finished 6th grade.
Yeah.
She after COVID, she decided she didn't want to go back to the Christian school my boys were going to
Yeah.
because, in a small school like that, just a couple kids can really shift the vibe of the
Yeah.
class of the age group. And it did.
Especially
And she
girls.
said, do I have to go?
Yeah.
What's that?
Especially with girls. They can
Yeah,
do
right. And so
my daughter faced
we
the
said,
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, we said, you don't have to go back. No, that's fine. And so my wife, first we did just all online. Then my wife started looking at curriculum. And it's amazing how, number one, she finishes all of her schoolwork by Thursday every week,
Yeah.
by noon or 1 o'clock in the day.
Yeah.
And, we feel her, she dances 4 to 5 hours a day. She's very competitive and she loves it. I don't push it, but she loves it. She gets tons of socialization, all the other
Yeah.
things that you would get from school,
Yeah.
the good sides of it, doing that. And to me, it is absolutely mind blowing. And then because my wife was like, hey, I'm not a teacher. I'm a little bit worried. Like, I want her to take some of these standardized tests because I want to make sure she's learning. Well, not shockingly, she's scoring in the 96, 97, 98 and up percentile.
Yeah.
Because you know what? When you're the only student, you don't move on till you learn it. Ta-da. It's like, so everything because you don't move on till you learn it. The thing I think is most amazing about what I learned from Khan Academy and Conmigo, and this will be very, very relevant to employees too. By having a one-on-one tutor as a student, you can increase the student by 2 standard deviations. So a below average student goes 1 standard deviation to an average student and another one too. So a below average student with a one-on-one tutor, AI, can become an above average student. An average student can become an excellent student. Like, there's not many people who are much different than below average or average to get to above average and excellent. Like, what is that going to do now when we have one-on-one assistance, one-on-one help for our team members? Like, it's productivity is going to go through the roof.
Absolutely. And again, that's why I come back to the skill side. That's where AI has got it on us. That's why it's the 4th attribute. Those other 3, will, values, and results, that's where we need to be human. And to the extent that we can enhance ourselves in that area, AI plus a player is the winning combo.
I couldn't agree more. And also, look, like we said, every tool cuts both ways. Look, Google. Kids have been cheating on exams forever. Like, that's not a new thing. And you can make the choice to cheat.
Yeah.
You're just cheating yourself. I mean, I would argue there's some subjects you just need to pass because you'll never need them again. But I'm not going to advocate for cheating. But like, Google can make you dumber. Like, you don't need to know it.
Yeah.
I mean, AI, we will be able to use it to be more productive or less productive. And that's, I can't make, great food can make you nourished or fat. I mean, or you can do any way you want to go with it. It's just a tool. The way you use it is ultimately up to you.
Yeah.
And I can't save you from yourself if you ultimately don't have any discipline and don't want to be a better person, don't want to learn, don't want to grow, don't want to be productive. But I love the fact that, all of us now have these tools at our disposal that, honestly, we should gain the access to not only be more productive, but hopefully enjoy things more. Like, if I want to learn to play, like, I play guitar. I mean, there's a bunch of guitars behind me here.
Yeah.
And I still could improve a lot if I've been playing for almost 40 years. But if I had the right tutor, I could be a lot better very quickly. And, I still don't understand how music really works. I understand it when it's on a piano laid out, but on the guitar, I haven't memorized because the 6 strings are all just so different. I guarantee you that there's a human being on the planet that in 90 seconds could tell me how it worked in a way that would change my relationship with my guitars. And I guarantee, and AI could do that almost instantly because it's just amazing what we're going to be able to do. And if we use it correctly, look, we can become a slave to this device, or we can use it when we want to. I'm guilty, by the way. I got to work on that. But I think the same thing with AI and with this new technology, we can choose to allow it to help us become better people, more productive, more fun, and all the things, or we can just let it take over our lives. I'm not a huge proponent of that. I know you're not either. Verne, I can't wait for people to read 12 Habits of Valuable Employees. They should read all your stuff. They should go to all your courses, all your events. I highly recommend them. It's great to see you, my friend. Any parting words before we let the people get back to what they're doing?
Nick, it's what we say to everybody. Keep scaling.
I love all that. Great to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining me on the show.